So yeah, I was doing the jewelry on Sarah My Jewels, and one day I was wearing something, and something happened, and I said to my husband, "Come outside and take a picture." And it was in our previous house, and I kind of leant outside, and I was kind of a bit stroppy. I was a bit aggro that day, and I kind of leant against the wall and snarled a bit, and he took a picture, and Tash put it up on her previous Instagram account, which is no longer live, and hashtagged "My mum is cooler than me" and "advanced style," which I don't know whether you've heard of advanced style. I hadn't heard of advanced style back in those days. Okay, well, I hadn't heard of it, but basically, long story short, my phone was pinging and dinging and banging on, and I thought it had broken because, of course, I'd only had one follower a day and like 3 likes a day or whatever. And I gave it to David, who you met, who is more of a slightly more technical than I am, and said, "Can you sort this out?" But by the end of the day, Tash called me and said, "Mum, have you checked your emails?" And I said, "No, why?" It was a weekend. And she said, "Ari Seth Cohen wants to see you." I said, "Who's Ari Seth Cohen?" She said, "He's advanced style." I said, "What's advanced style?" Anyway, Ari Seth Cohen is a blogger from America who about 10 years ago was one of the first people to highlight Iris Apfel. And he started this blog called Advanced Style, which was basically finding older people on the streets of New York where he lived and taking their photographs and writing a blog about them. So Ari Seth Cohen contacted me and said, "Where are you? I need to shoot you."
Amazing.
And we said, "Oh," Tasha was already onto it. She said, "Oh, we're in Sydney." And he said, "Oh my gosh, I'm in Sydney doing pre-promotion for my film Advanced Style, which is going to be released in 2 or 3 months' time. And I'm leaving tomorrow, but I need to shoot your mum." So Ari came around the next day, reshot the photograph, put it on his blog. A couple of weeks later, when he'd gotten back to New York, and then I got about another 3,000 or 4,000 followers within a week or so. So that was really exciting. And then about 3 weeks later, I think through Ari, because I think he must have hashtagged Adidas Originals, and they contacted me and said, "Can we use this?" Oh, because I was wearing a vintage Adidas jacket, right? And they said, "Can we repost this photograph?" And I said, "Sure, no worries." And about 5 or 6 weeks later, I literally watched the world wake up as my followers and all this. It was the craziest thing to experience. I've always done kind of the opposite of what was expected, even with this, the universe has always thrown me opposite options to what's expected. So I've never really felt, "Oh, this is my path." I mean, ideally, given the education that I had and everything, I should have become a lawyer or a doctor or a solicitor and gone on to be that sort of a feminist, like a very career-driven person, but also with 2.4 children and a lawn. And, that was what was hoped for me, because I was probably the second generation of women to come through who were given those opportunities. I mean, I grew up when the pill was first, which supposedly was a great freedom for women. But I always knew that I wanted to do something that was a bit more creative. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I've always fallen into what I've done. So I sort of fell into doing what I'm doing. And it really, because of the way I've chosen to live my life, and because I was single, very, very fiercely single, and a single businesswoman, never ever really had a proper job. I was never employed until I was 50. In my 50s, I was employed as a specialist consultant by an auction house. But I've always only ever worked for myself. So I've learned to be very independent and very self-sufficient. I had my twins pretty much as a single parent. I was a single parent pretty much until they were about 7. And so we've been a very tight unit. And I guess that's what I mean when I said in terms of living a feminist life. I feel as though I have lived a very strongly feminist life because I have been self-sufficient, independent, looked after the girls, created the home, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm older and I just kind of want to withdraw from all of the other stuff and just basically hand the baton over to the young people for you to do what you want to do with the feminism placard really.
So going against the grain, and yeah, obviously you mentioned you had your girls by yourself in a different time than today, and all of these things that you did throughout your life that were, I guess, you weren't a lawyer, you forged your own path. Did you experience pushback at any point? Were you like...
constant, but pushback is what fires me on.
Yeah.
I mean, ever since I was very young, there's always been resistance to me being who I want to be. But I think that's what children feel a lot. I don't know. I mean, to me, that's a normality. But yes, absolutely resistance to, from close and, like within my industry, there weren't that many women, really. There were a lot of gay men, and that was a great thing for me because they were very supportive and they were my friends. So there was always resistance, yes. And even within the industry, you're still working against the old boys club. And it is against, we work within the industry, but because to me, the way I've always lived my life is that my own moral compass is what's actually important. The moral compass and the way I do business and the way I interact with people. Some people think I'm hardcore. Some people think I'm rude. Some people think I'm bullshit. I probably am, but that's kind of how I've had to survive in the man's world, and it's always a deal. And I've never been sponsored. I've always had to put my money where my mouth is, the same as my kids. If we're doing deals, we pay for it up front. We do it. We don't ask for charity. We don't ask for kickbacks from people. And that's why as an influencer, I'm not an influencer. I don't do sponsored. Well, occasionally I'll do a sponsored thing or I'll work with a brand, but that's comes back to the authentic thing, comes back to the authenticity with my brand, how I started on Insta. I don't want to make a little blue box or a little green box. That's not what I'm selling. It's so much more than that. And I think, yeah, you're right. People do vibe off that. They do realize that maybe, but it's because I'm bolshy as well.
Yeah. Okay. So now that you are, so it's funny that I hear you say that you're not an influencer because you definitely do have influence. And then I guess you also have this modeling career now where you're walking in shows. But
that's not a modeling career. That's just a one or two off occasion.
Well, do you consider yourself a model?
No.
How often do you have modeling jobs?
Oh, only when it's Fashion Week and Mercedes and David Jones thing occasionally.
Because your husband
it's not like I'm flying over the world and walking the catwalks.
Well, your husband did mention before that you've gotten the opportunity to go to the US. Is that right?
Yes.
To model?
Yeah.
What was that for?
Well, it's to do campaigns and things.
Okay.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
That's being a model.
No, it's not being a model. It's actually jumping on being pulled onto the bandwagon of using influencers and people with numbers to try and popularize. But it's not being a model. So maybe it is. I don't know. Depends on what your definition of model is. So the things that I've done. So yeah, I don't think of myself as a model. But anyway, thank you if you think that I'm a model.
So, well, if you don't consider yourself a model, can I ask, do you consider yourself beautiful?
No, I don't really think about it.
You don't really think about it?
No, I don't think about it at all. I mean, there's no mirrors in. I'll show you. I don't have a bathroom. I shower outside. I don't have mirrors everywhere that I preen. I don't have a full length. No, I don't. So I don't actually think of. Nobody ever told me I was beautiful, and I don't. It's not. I don't think about it.
Okay.
And it's just like not something that matters to you.
Not in the slightest. No.
I love that. Your grandmother was.
My mother was a beauty queen. Yes.
Okay. And so, do you think, did she place a lot of emphasis on beauty?
On her own beauty, yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And was that something she put onto you as well?
No, I resisted big time. That's why I'm always such a gronk. I'm always boy. I'm always because I just whenever we would go out, my mum would spend ages getting ready, and I mean, she was very very beautiful. She was very much like Liz Taylor. She looked a lot like Liz. She modelled herself on Liz. She had the same facial structure and same dark hair and the same sort of violet blue eyes and the hair pieces and which would sort of sit on the end of her dressing table and completely freak me out, and a bit like everyone's got extension. It was the same thing was going on in those days, and it was. But I mean, I'd like to make a bigger deal of it, but it was never something that interested me. Mm-hmm. It's not who I am. It's not who I was. It's like my twins. One of them, when they were little, used to spend hours with my mother, doing all of that. This one wasn't the slightest bit interested.
Looking through your feed, you do have some photos where you're very made up, obviously for like a modeling job, and they'll straighten your hair and they'll do a full face of makeup. And I actually think you look way better when your hair is a little bit unruly and you look like yourself, because you can really feel that difference.
Yes.
That like what comes
the
through.
energy is different.
It is different.
You feel like yourself.
Yes. And I'm not dissing doing those jobs. I actually really enjoy doing those jobs. Like there are two that come to mind. One is for an Australian brand called Serpent and the Swan, and that's the first person who chose to straighten my hair, and they were the first people actually who bleached my eyebrows. I now bleach my eyebrows because they're old and grey and melted and kind of speckled, and so I just now bleach them because
I love that you say they're grey when your like whole hair's grey and fabulous.
Yes, but I don't even I don't identify through the fact that my hair's been grey since I started going grey at 14. My children have started to but so the serpent, but so to get back to the point of that, which is that and the other thing was for Women's Wear Daily. I was on the front cover of Women's Wear WWD a few years ago in America, and that's when they did the kind of Marilyn hairdo, and but they've smoothed my face, but that's fine. But I enjoy doing that because it's a fantasy. So I go into doing that, and it's not like it's I don't want to be myself. I want to be authentic. No, if it's a gig, fuck, I'll take it. If it's for somebody that I want to work with,
and I really get into.
It's dress ups, and I get into the role, and I do whatever needs to be done, and I love it. So I'm not so hardcore that I'm like some people would say you wouldn't wear Christians' clothes in real life. Well, actually, I would.
Yeah, but I think as once it becomes your job being a model, it's not always about. It doesn't always have to be about authenticity.
Exactly.
It can be about you're
like
creating something for somebody else. You're a bit of an artist like that you can be a bit of a chameleon.
Yeah.
I think on our personal social media, that's where we talk about.
Well, that's why
that's
why I have two social media sites now. So last year I went to England because I was very amazingly asked to be a part of the H&M seasonal festive whatever they call it campaign. So that was a huge in terms of the biggest brand that I've worked for. So I went and did that, and it was sheer fantasy. For me, it was sheer fantasy. They put me in red heels that were like this high, but it was fun, it was good. And then but it was, the interesting thing was that because it was the Christmas Northern Hemisphere cold, it was all cold weather clothing and stuff. It's only now hitting Australia, so I'm now on bus stops in Australia.
Oh my God,
that's so cool.
Sitting in a chair, and I've got my hair in my space
disco buns. Love that.
My space buns, and sort of sitting there. And there's a couple of other cool chicks in there doing it. So that was it was a serious decision for me. Am I going to do this brand? And yes, I didn't have to think about it for very long. I'm happy to do that. It was fantasy. It was fun.
And it's funny because I know that you're saying that you believe that a lot of people using you in campaigns because they feel like it's this trend right now. But yeah, I do really feel like that is how we drive change. I think it starts with
good.
Certain people
I
think you're being too hard on yourself, because I think it really does start with some people will really see the merit in it and really be doing it in an authentic way, and then other people will be like, like the biggers like H&M will be like, well, I guess if this is what customers want and this is what people are going to see our brand in a positive light, then we better do this.
Yes.
And then I think eventually it does drive a change. We used to see only stick thin models being used with brands.
Yep.
And in the beginning it was more of a token gesture not to, but now, this week at Fashion Week, we saw pet eyewear, we saw heaps of labels that it's just, it's much more real now. And I think you're definitely part of driving that change. I think
Thank you. That's what I would like to think, but it's not why I started. It's taken me, and I'm still coming to terms with the fact that I do have a responsibility to some extent. I do have some sort of social responsibility. Nothing that I've ever chosen. I've never wanted to be a poster girl for anything because I am very private. And because people's mind, I change my mind about stuff all the time. Like, I'm always questioning, why should I be doing this? Why am I doing this? And one day I'll think, not such a good idea to do that. And then, but now I do realize, yes, I do have some sort of a social responsibility. And I'm very grateful that my crew, my age group, there's a big division between the people who are envious because I'm the one who got the gig, basically, and the people who are saying, go girl. Like yesterday after the show, there were a number of people of my age who said, it was so awesome to see you repping us out there. And I said, well, yeah, I'm taking it for the team. Mm-hmm. And thank you, because it's not like I've been somebody who's actively sought to do it. I seem to have been the chosen one of a few.
And I think that's the thing in life, is that sometimes you just, these things find you.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that a lot, that you can't just go out there constantly trying to be like,
Exactly.
chasing these opportunities.
Yes.
Sometimes like you've just got to slow down and enjoy your life a little bit, and trust that they will find you at the right time.
If that's what is meant to happen. Like sometimes I'll come home and I'll say to my husband, that was my last gig. That was the last job. I know that was the last job. And then maybe 2 weeks will pass and something else will come in. And
because you think that you're not going to get anything else?
Yeah, I think, I won't get another one. The diversity, aging, whatever thing, that it's kind of running its course.
Isn't that so funny that you're so hard on yourself?
I'm so hard, but that's how I've been brought up. That's why I've been so friggin' successful in life, because I'm so hard on myself. I was always never good enough. I was always told when we would go out, my parents would say, well, who'd want to look at you when your mother is the goddess? Who'd want to look at you? Come on, that was what. So now it's like, oh, I've had the last laugh. 180,000 people are looking at me, and a whole load more who don't acknowledge that they're looking at me. But it's not. But who? I don't actually give a shit about that. That's what like. I don't care if people are looking at me. It's just so weird.
Yeah, it's not like your core values, but it's just like nice icing on the top, I guess.
But like I'm really happy when I see because I was, I guess, lucky because I was one of the first older people on Insta, and I guess that's why I'm up there with the numbers. And there's maybe half a dozen of us. Now there's a whole new other bunch of people who are really keen to be models and really desperate to be the fitness. I mean, like if I wanted to sell myself, I would be using hashtags about white hair, grey hair, yoga. Like I do all the friggin' moves. It's clear that I'm a healthy body, healthy vehicle. It's clear that I go to practice every day. It's because of how I am and how. But it's not something I don't want to promote myself as the fitness. Like I'm selling fitness wear. I'm the grey hair. It's not what I want to do. There's plenty of other people, and good on them for jumping on that bandwagon.
Yeah,
I don't want to jump on it.
People get a bit sidetracked now that they're like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do everything.
Yeah.
And it's really cool that you've kind of like stayed true to what you want to do.
Absolutely.
You keep yourself on track and you stay true to yourself so hard. How do you do that? If we've got younger listeners
easily
who are wondering, like, how do I do that?
I don't buy magazines. Look at this house. I don't have I've got Netflix. I never switch it. I've got a television. I have a radio which is only tuned to ABC National Radio. I don't play music. I don't have magazines. There's papers there on the table because I was in them, so I keep them for the records. I haven't bought a magazine since the 80s. The last magazines I bought are in that cupboard, which is Face and ID from 1983 to 89. I don't do any media. I don't look at anything out there. I live in Newton. I totally live in a bubble. I'll show you around this house afterwards. You'll see. I just live what I consider to be a healthy life. I'm not constantly... I'm on my phone way more than I should be because of Instagram. Yeah,
but you block out a lot of those external factors that can bring negativity into your life.
I'm a hermit. Feel how quiet it is here.
Yeah.
You would not know that, like, there's 200 yards we're between the two main streets of Newtown.
Yeah, and I think that's something that young people are kind of realizing now is, like, not completely living their life in that way, but having those moments in their life where, you can switch off for periods. You can get back to nature and go for walks, and you can kind of,
absolutely,
even if you don't want to be a total hermit, you can still
just switch off. Even like the Instagram timer now, I've put like a 45-minute Instagram timer on my phone. So after 45 minutes a day, it tells me no more Instagram. And I'm like,
wow, that's
okay.
great.
Yeah.
Good.
And so is yoga for you how you've kind of like maintained your body? Because honestly, like, I don't think I have as much energy as you do. I've seen you around Fashion Week all week running around.
You just got up on this couch before. Like, you were like on the back of the couch. Stephanie was worried about you and you were like, no, I'm fine. It's chill.
Yeah, you were like climbing around up there with the curtains. And
I've always been a tomboy. Like I've always climbed. If there's something there, I will fucking climb it. I've always done that. I'm not saying that, I want to be a boy, but I've always been very, in the old school, tomboy.
Yeah.
But now yoga is my life, actually.
Funny you should
It
say
gives
that.
me life.
Yoga is my life.
Yes.
Fully my
Yes.
life. Isn't it so special? It is the most special.
I practice. One of the reasons I bought this house is because it's like really close to where I practice yoga, and I go every morning either at 6:30 or 8 o'clock for an hour to an hour and a half every single morning.
So good.
Without fail. This week, like this morning, I went to the 8 o'clock class, and I just so needed to because I was feeling so scattered after. But I'll come home after Fashion Week days or whatever. I come back and I kind of refocus because I don't jump on the bandwagon of OCD, but I'm very organized. And so like you would not know that there's been, but I've always been like that. But yoga really helps me to bring it back in and to focus and to center everything. I have the most beautiful little backyard. Like the other morning, it was on the first day of Fashion Week. I wasn't planning on going to Fashion Week at all. I was going to kind of just not bother. And we'd been away because we have a place in the country in Bowral as well. And we'd been there because we had a country wedding and gay wedding in Canberra the weekend before. So, and we'd bought all these little seedlings. And so I was out there in the on the Monday morning of Fashion Week planting my seedlings. I'll show you later. And I thought, so I'd been to yoga, put my seedlings in, hadn't registered for a single show. And I thought, you know what? I'm strong enough. I can go to Fashion Week, but I have to wear camo. So I just got myself togged up, schlepped down the road. There I was. So, but it's all because I can do all of that because
you've got the balance. You've got the yoga and you've got the outdoorsiness. Exactly.
Yes.
And that gives you the energy to go and
now I need to completely lock. I've got so much work to do because I have you asked me.
Yes, I think it was
the other day. Yes, you asked me the other day. What else do you do outside of this? I have so much going on outside of this. This is just a really small part of my life, and I'll show you my desk is like piled up, jewelry, property stuff, pension funds, health stuff that I have to like I'm at an age where I have shit that I have to do, so I'm kind of next week is health. Focusing on my health.
So, and then when you talk about other people your age and when you see them, do you feel like you did certain things in your life that made you be able to do what you're doing now?
Absolutely. I'm not.
Do we have to prepare? Tell me.
Yes.
Should I be preparing?
Yes. Every day is a preparation. I mean, you live in the present. I've always been an ambitious person, but not goal driven. But I've always I've never known from one day to the next what's going to happen, how I'm going to do things. I don't plan. There's no major plan. But I am very conscious that you do only have this one body. And it's really important to look after it. And that's why the health of every aspect, whether it's your body, your spirit, your every aspect of your being, your health, your spiritual health, your emotional health, every aspect of who a person is, a being is, needs to be taken care of. And that's why when you said, what are you focusing? I'm still always focusing on my family and on me.